does the opposition have a counter to this? These are not incidents in isolation. They've all come together once again pushing the cultural Hindutva ideology where the BJP is concerned, which is also the own political prowess of the sitting Prime Minister Modi. And it wasn't just by coincidence that the Prime Minister, not once but twice over in the last 10 days, has touched upon shedding the Macaulay mindset or colonial baggage. All of it coming together at the back of emphatic, belligerent electoral wins. What does this suggest? Let's take it to our panel this evening. Joining me, Professor Rakesh Sinha, author and former MP, Dushyant Sridhar, Vedic scholar, Ashutosh, political analyst, Dr. Ruchika Sharma, historian. I'd like to begin right off the bat, Professor Rakesh Sinha, for someone who's joined us on many occasions at the back of this, but there is a clear thread to it, Professor Sinha. We'd seen it wane a little because we saw that entire pitch for Hindutva right ahead of 2024 elections electorally, if you go by, that didn't quite pay off as much as the BJP would have wanted, and I'm only translating it in electoral terms. You'd say there's a larger civilizational, cultural context to it, but if we limit it to that, now after 4 big back-to-back wins, we see that massive push come again, adding to it a larger cultural subtext.
You know, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a politician. He is heading also Bharatiya Janata Party in the government. That does not mean that we should devalue his all action and vision. India or Bharat, which has been deprived of its basic spirituality by the successive government in the past, not only the colonial government, but the Nehruvian government, Nehruvian and Marxist, they de-emphasize the India's legacy and particularly spiritual legacy. When Prime Minister visits Udupi, the importance of Udupi is not merely a Hindu religious place. The Madhavacharya ji, in 12th century, he has been a philosopher. Indian philosophy is inseparable with the spirituality. You just divide the two and the philosophy would lose its roots. Therefore, the Madhavacharya, I am talking Madhavacharya ji, he wrote 37 works. There are 37 works on Bhagavad Gita, on Mahabharata, on Vedas, his commentaries. Therefore, I consider that the Prime Minister's visit is just to fulfill the hunger of the Hindu society. The deprivation, spiritual deprivation. It is not that the government was not conscious of that, but they were de-Hinduizing the Hindus. And by de-Hinduizing the Hindu, they consider it is a modernity. Westernization is a modernization. That concept became the basic principle and assumption of the Nehruvian and Marxist era. Therefore, I consider that the Hindus of common Hindu masses, just I am ending this, common Hindu masses, their spiritual aspirations being fulfilled by a leader, and I consider Modi would be known in the Indian history as a cultural spiritual warrior who has done something which others could not do. So after thousands of years, there is a ruler who is a missionary not in the jail
But Professor Rakesh Sinha, you call him a cultural spiritual warrior, but that cultural spiritual warrior also has a very strong religious subtext to it. You talk about previous successive governments who completely, somewhere down the line overlooked that aspect and tried to pull away India, what is Bharat today to many, away from that core ideology is what you seem to suggest. But many would suggest that previous successive governments stuck to the secular ethos of this country, and there are many examples to suggest the same. That line, Ashutosh, many would suggest between an official person and a personal ideology and an official capacity of the Prime Minister of this country stands blurred today.
Preeti, I think what my friend Rakesh Sinha has said, he has used the word cultural warriors. This warrior is an alien word in our culture. We talk about saints, those who represent Indian ethos, those who represent Indian traditions, those who represent spirituality of India, those who represent the basic substance of the Gita, Veda and Upanishads. They were not warriors. They were saints. And that's why Rishi Munis, that's why they were respected, they were revered. And the biggest Hindu icon if ever had come across after Swami Vivekanand is Mahatma Gandhi. And his successor is Jawaharlal Nehru. Anybody who has read A Discovery of India should know that how deep he was involved with Indian spirituality. His essays on Ganges and his essays on Indian culture is class apart, and the whole world has accepted it. I do not know what is the problem with the BJP and the RSS that they don't want to accept Gandhi and the Nehru. That's a problem. Anybody who has read भारतीय संस्कृति के 4 अध्याय रामधारी सिंह दिनकर ने जो लिखी है, उसकी से प्रस्तावना अगर एक बार कोई पढ़ ले, राकेश सिन्हा जी पढ़ लें, तो उनको अंदाजा होगा कि भारतीय स्पिरिचुअलिटी की एक सेंट, एक ऋषि की तरीके से, जिस तरीके से जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने व्याख्या की है, वो कोई वॉरियर उसकी व्याख्या नहीं कर सकता. But I do not know, since they have a problem with the Nehru, they have a problem with the Gandhi, and that is why they think that there's nobody is bigger than Modi. Obviously, he has every right to do that. But the fact of the matter is that I would like to see Mr. Narendra Modi going to a mosque, going to a church, going to going to some other religious places, and doing exactly the same thing. Then that will prove that he is a respect
that
for
will be
all
true
the religion.
cultural, spiritual growth is what you're saying. And I'll circle back to you because, Ashutosh, many today in the country believe, and we see that electorally as well, that the pendulum has swung so far left at one point of time under the UPA that now this is the law of nature. And you can see that happening. But I'll come back to you, and I want to bring in our other panelists into this conversation. Dushyant Sridhar, with what Ashutosh also touched on, and the question that I had also asked, to Rakesh Sinha, and I'll come back to him, Dr. Sinha, later, is that line has blurred between what is the Prime Minister in his official capacity and what is his personal capacity. Because here you see a Prime Minister who is clearly the mascot of Hindutva, while you don't see him partake in religious, cultural activities of other religion. You don't see, especially maybe the Islamic religion, you don't see that.
Namaskaram, Preeti, and namaskaram to all my fellow panelists. Just my thoughts, I'm an apolitical person, yet I have some opinion about what questions you've asked. One, see, when he spoke about the Macaulay mindset, it is not about English as a language. He has mentioned in quite a few speeches that he is not against the language. But for a very long time, Preeti, I'm sure you may agree that you will always look up to a person who has the culture of the English, not just the language. So probably 10 years back, Preeti, a person who's adorning a tilaka like me wouldn't even be called for a TV debate or a panel. So that has changed. See, the point is we have started believing that merit and knowledge have nothing to do with the way the person looks or how religious the person looks. You have a chief minister of Uttar Pradesh who's a yogi in himself. So that is point number one. And point number two, you spoke about the blurring. Preeti, I would like to give you an incident of 1987. The largest temple, functioning temple of Southeast Asia, Sri Rangam in Tamil Nadu, and the then presiding chief minister, Sri M.G. Ramachandran from a Dravidian party, partook in the event and was presiding over the event. A chief minister in the state of Tamil Nadu called M.G. Ramachandran presiding over a Hindu temple from a Dravidian party was not spoken about, and a person who claims himself to be a part of Hindutva, why shouldn't he participate? Point number two. Point number three, a lot of people who have loved Ram and opposed Ram have had the name Ram. E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar was Periyar. Ramachandran, M.G. Ramachandran, Siddha Ramaya, N.T. Ramarao. So all the places, the culture, the architecture, the dance forms, everything is associated with the Ramayana. So I feel Prime Minister taking part in the temple event should not be seen with the lens. And for your information, I think when he went to some of the countries of European continent, he did meet with the Pope. He did visit the mosque in the Middle East, if I'm right, I think in UAE or Muscat. He went to a mosque. So what else do we want? What do we want him to lead an event? I'm sure Islam as a religion will not allow him to lead an event which is religious in nature. He's a non-Muslim. I don't think they would allow him.
I don't think, Okay, I don't think his co-constituency would also allow it. But having said that, you gave one instance. I'll give you another, Mr. Sridhar, and I'll bring in Dr. Ruchika Sharma, who's a historian, and maybe she can reflect on a little bit of modern political history on that account. And that's the year 1951, and that's where I speak about the personal and the official and that line blurring. Because at that point of time, you had a Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the Prime Minister of the country, write to a Rajendra Prasad expressing his reservations about Rajendra Prasad ji of not inaugurating the Somnath temple in official capacity as president, because that would not go along with the secular ethos of this country, to which Dr. Prasad did go and attend it, did inaugurate the Somnath Mandir, and he made it very clear he's doing it in his personal capacity and not official capacity. So Dr. Ruchika Sharma, if you do go by, because very strong binaries are being driven today on that account.
I actually wanted to, take a couple of minutes to respond to what Mr. Sinha and Mr. Sridhar over here said. This idea that somehow westernization is modernization is a Nehruvian idea is actually historically incorrect. If you look at the 19th century itself, you have Savitribai Phule, who's written not one, not two, but a total of 4 poems, all of which eulogize how English education has helped not just women, but also the Shudra Atishudra to come to par with the upper caste people, right? And I'm just going to quote 4 lines from this 4th poem. She had like 2 poem collections. This is from the 2nd one, right? She says, even though non-Shudras were employed for English work, Shudras and women were not treated like Shudras. English rule arose in this land of India to improve things for the people in the region of Maharashtra. And if you look at not just her, but also Jyotiba Phule's writing, there is this constant idea that before the English education system was brought in, before Macaulay put this idea that people of India should learn English and should learn English in the language of English, the English education in the language of English. Before that, we were living under the rule of quote-unquote Manusmriti and Brahmanvad, and that refused us any education. And you have so many other writers, in fact, even from the upper caste, actually supporting this idea. You had Pandita Ramabai, who said that girls of 6 or 7 years of age just could not read or write. In 1880 to 81, we had a census, the British census, which said that there were around 9,700,000 women or girls under the British, out of which 9 million and around 600,000 were absolutely could not read and write. So this is the number that we are talking about. This was the level of uneducation, that was that the women and the Shudra Atishudra were suffering from. And another point is, it's very interesting that the Prime Minister goes on board to say that we want to do away with the Western education system, we want to do away with Macaulay. But at the same point of time, in October 2025, it was announced that there are going to be 9 universities from the United Kingdom that are going to set up campus in India.
Right.
So it's a very fascinating hypocrisy that comes out here, that you actually see that the government is on one hand saying we don't want the English education system, but Macaulay's own country people are being asked to come over here and set up campus. So it's this, this double standards which really baffle me. Yeah.
All right. So the duality of that, and I want to, once again focus back, because it's not the many layers to narrative building, and whether we like it or not, there is a clear narrative which seems to suggest that it is the BJP, it is the Prime Minister who propagate the core Hindutva ideology. And that is something, Dr. Sinha, that the opposition has found very, very difficult to tackle with. And I'll once again give the example. The sheer fact that this is an ideology that the BJP wants to push ahead, the RSS want to push ahead. Let's go back to 2024 elections. You had the inauguration of the Ram Temple. Politically, it didn't quite, give as much dividends. And I'm only talking about politically right now. One saw an ebb in that push. But you see that resurgence once again after back-to-back wins in 4 states.
I have very high opinion for Ruchika Sharma. And she's well-read and she gives a very strong logic. But here I find that she's at a very weak platform. She's talking about the English. Before coming to your question, just I have a remark
ahead,
for her. She's talking about the English. We are not fighting English. We are not fighting against English. English is one of languages which has played a very vital role in the discourse, and it is far ahead than other languages in the contemporary world. But that is not the matter. Here, what Prime Minister is emphasizing is that Indian languages should be given a push. Ruchika, you know that despite the hegemony of the English, our contribution in the world knowledge is very little. Last Nobel Prize was 1913 by Rabindranath Tagore and C.V. Raman in 1930. So English has not done a great job. It may be for certain castes, certain communities, for bringing equality, egalitarian. These are very important things, but that are not the sine qua non. Now I am coming to your question. Basically, Preeti, you just understand the Indian mind. The elites and the common masses, there is a binary. Elites think in certain terms and certain ways with certain presumptions. But the common masses aspiration, they are not the crowd. Marxist and Nehruvian consider the common masses as part of the crowd. As long as they endorse them, they are good crowd. When they don't endorse them, they are the bad crowd. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi does not reject Gandhi, does not reject Nehru. He just rejects the westernization theory which is hegemonizing the Indian people, decolonizing the Indian mind. That's why he says that we should get away from the Macaulay. 2 points I am emphasizing here. First thing, that spirituality is the core of India. Without spirituality, India cannot be imagined. That's why common masses are excited whenever there is some spiritual gains or spiritual deliverance by the state. On the question of, you rightly pointed out, in the question of the Somnath temple, when Dr. Rajendra Prasad, K.M. Munshi, Sardar Patel, N.V. Gadgil, they took one stand and Nehru was other stand.
No, sir.
Second question
you
is
know,
that
no. But Professor Sinha, let me. I just want to give I'd just like to give context to that. It wasn't two separate points. The point was I'm going there as my personal capacity and not official. So that demarcation was made by the sitting president at that point of time, because there was a demarcation at that time between official and personal.
I'm talking. You know, the Prime Minister wrote letters to all chief ministers. This is not the state function. There was a crisis in the government when Kanhaiya Lal Maniklal Munshi, N.V. Gadgil, Dr. Rajendra Prasad took the position. Then ultimately Rajendra Prasad wrote. He virtually the government of India was stopping Rajendra Prasad. Then he had taken a stand that I'm going at a personal capacity. There's no way out. It was a great crisis in the government. Go through all these papers of the contemporary period.
But sir, I agree. I agree with you. But the fact is, there was a distinction between personal and official. That distinction no longer exists.
You know, when you reject the Madhavacharya, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a Prime Minister, he should not go to Madhavacharya. When you reject that Prime Minister should not go to Rama temple, then what India remains? And the kind of binary has been created by the selective secularism of Nehru and selective secularism. I am coming to selective secularism. He also presented a replica of mosque to the king of the Saudi Arabia's king, the Cheraman Mosque, where a temple was converted into a mosque by the Hindu king. Therefore, I consider that Prime Minister is taking the position which is helping.
Okay, everyone wants to come in. Dr. Sinha, I'm going to come back to you.
The common masses are welcoming.
The fact is, whatever it's not an argument, because whatever you do say does find resonance on ground, and we can see that electorally. Ashutosh, I want to bring you back into this conversation, because this is something, and I'll once again, this is a highly emotive subject, especially what the Prime Minister has said about the Macaulay mindset, about colonial hangovers, all of that, and everyone wants to talk about it. But if you interpret it politically, Ashutosh, the fact that Hindutva, Hindu Hriday Samrat, that was what the Prime Minister in 2014, this is his political prowess, this is, his pitch which he's batting on. And he's come back to it, and this time in a much more nuanced and cultural way, which the opposition still doesn't have an answer to.
See, Preeti, I think let's not confuse issues. when Rakesh Sinha says that he's an icon of Hindutva, then yes, he's an icon of Hindutva, but Hindutva is a political ideology. Hindutva, RSS uses Hindu religion for its political benefit. That's called political ideology. That's Hindutva. Mr. Narendra Modi is an icon of Hindutva. Mr. Narendra Modi is not the icon of the Hindus. Let's not confuse issues. Because Hindus are very, very different. I can understand that he's an icon of the upper caste. But is the entire 80% Hindus follow him? No. There is a serious debate between the Dalits and there is a serious debate within the OBCs. Are we confusing upper caste with Hindus and we are discarding OBCs and the Dalits? I think we have to understand that. If that is true, then what Baba Saheb Ambedkar says, what Phule says, that also has to be incorporated.
Ashutosh, but as simplistic of trying and interpreting it politically, let's look at the Bihar results. The OBCs and the Dalits did go with the NDA.
30 seconds.
Sir, I'll come to you. Allow Ashutosh to come in and I'll come full circle.
I think if you
give me 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Nitish
Sir,
Kumar
let Ashutosh finish. I'll circle back to you. Ashutosh, make your point.
Nitish Kumar will take a great offense if you see that he follows Hindutva. Nitish Kumar does not follow Hindutva. Nitish Kumar has a very clearly defined Ram Manohar Lohia JP's ideology that is socialist. Socialism has nothing to do with Hindutva.
Okay.
So let's not, NDA does not stand for Hindutva. Let's not confuse issues. Here, what is the issue here is, the issue is that Rakesh Sinha and the RSS and the BJP has to negate and erase the memories of Mahatma Gandhi, the memories of Jawaharlal Nehru. Because nobody, what Gandhi has interpreted Hinduism, that is not what RSS think about it. So let's not confuse the issues. Rakesh Sinha has its own selective memory. Sometimes he's doing selective secularism, sometimes he's the positive secularism. What secularism is all about? Is Rakesh Sinha wants to say that is he secular or not? Let him come back. Let him say that he's secular.
Okay, he wants to come back, but we have other two guests. But because you asked a direct question, Rakesh Sinha ji, you wanted 30 seconds. Go ahead, and then I'll cut across to our other guest.
No, I am surprised. Ashutosh is a senior journalist, but he is betraying the very essence of the discourse. He is calling Narendra Modi icon of the upper caste Hindus. He himself is a OBC. I don't want to speak about his caste. This is very pathetic that I have to speak the caste of a prime minister in the TV debate. He is himself an OBC. He represents the lower strata, economic strata of the society. He is representing the marginalized caste in the society. And you are calling him the upper caste icon? You are creating a binary between upper caste and OBC? This is such a pathetic condition. I am telling just two small points. One thing, that we should discourse on the importance of the spirituality and the Prime Minister's role. Had other Prime Minister played such role, you have to discuss this. What Nehru played the role? He de-Hinduized the Hindus. Now Prime Minister Modi is re-Hinduizing the Hindus by fulfilling, accomplishing the hungers of the Hindus.
Yes, and I'll come back to the both of you. You know, okay,
I want to just... is doing his moral duty.
Okay, allow me to bring in Dushyant Sridhar and Ruchika Sharma back into this conversation. Dushyant Sridhar, you've been wanting to come in quickly, sir. Make your point.
Very quickly, 4 points. First point is the word religion itself, when we see from the Western lens, religion B is anti-religion A. Religion C is anti-religion A and B. Whereas from the perspective of Hinduism, we don't see it principally that way. So the word religion itself should not send shockers across the ecosystem. One. Second point is one person did speak about, one of the panelists did speak about the Shudras receiving or not receiving education. In the 13th century, you had a line, Bhasha Geetif Prashasta Bhagavati Vachanat Rajavacho Upacharat, language be any. That language, beauty and content should be appreciated. Andanar, Andiyar, Nundavare Mudalas, the 13th century work. We had Shudrachara Shironmani written in the 14th century by 6 scholars of the Shudra community in Sanskrit. 2. Point number 3, there was a talk about the binary, that there is a Macaulay education system with the Prime Minister is against. Then you have UK universities being set up in India. That way, there are reports of some politicians who say that caste, what's your language, what's your caste, we need to do away with caste. And they are the same people who pull their Janeyu outside and show that I am a Brahmin. So in what way is this not a binary and that a binary? And last of all, I just want to say one thing, Preeti. Just because the Prime Minister did not mention that line, it's not in my personal capacity or in the capacity of a Prime Minister that I'm visiting, it doesn't make it different from what Rajendra Prasad did. So if you ask Prime Minister, he'll say, as in my personal capacity, I went. But at the end of the day, in 1950s, we had a person who asserted, stating
no,
that
okay, but Dushyant Sridhar, if you do something in your personal capacity, then there is no protocol. But if there is protocol attached to it, then it becomes an official capacity, right? There's a distinction to it.
When people go to iftar
There was
parties,
full protocol where the Prime Minister went.
when people go to iftar parties, do they go with protocol or without protocol?
So, I'm not understanding the point. Because
See,
I'm just saying the Prime Minister went in official capacity. So like you said that he went in personal capacity. No, he didn't. He went in official capacity. That's all I'm saying. Right? So we can interpret it in whichever way we want to. Okay, Dr. Sharma wants to come in. Yes, Dr. Sharma, quickly make your point, ma'am.
I just wanted to respond to a couple of things Mr. Sinha had said. The first one being that if they don't have a problem with English and the English education system, then what is their problem with Macaulay? Because if he has read Macaulay's Minute 1835, that is what it basically says. And I'm just going to give you quick context on how this happened. Macaulay was questioned saying you should not impart English education in English to the Indians, because if they do get to know this, then tomorrow they will ask us democratic institutions. Macaulay in response to that said, if that ever happens, that will be the proudest day in the history of the British. And that's exactly what happened. Many, including the person at whose poster is behind me, Bhagat Singh, he learned English education and went on to fight for Indian independence. There were many, including Kalpana Datta, Kadambini Ganguly, the first woman who became the first woman doctor along with Anandibai Joshi. She learned from the Bethune College, from a English-speaking college. She learned her education and went on. I think most of the Indian education system's contribution has happened in the English language. People read the works of Romila Thapar, Irfan Habib in universities of the UK and the US. They are all in English. The other point that I want to make, and this is responding to Mr. Sridhar's point, since he's quoting so many verses in Sanskrit to say that, the Shudras were receiving education, I'd like to quote the Manusmriti, which very categorically states that if you ever hear the Shudra speaking in Sanskrit, pour hot oil into that Shudra's mouth. So there is absolutely no idea that there was some sort of a utopia where the Shudras or the Atishudras were allowed to talk in Sanskrit to gain education in Sanskrit. So it's okay. There are two things that Professor Sinha should sort of clarify. What is his problem with Macaulay if English is not the problem and English education is not the problem? Because Macaulay brought this. And this other idea of the slave mindset, it's the exact opposite. If you look at what the women have been saying, what Shudras have been, Atishudras have been saying, they got out of the slave mindset primarily by learning English in English and the English education system.
All right. Okay. So now that's where the Macaulay mindset is. I'm taking final comments there. I begin with Professor Rakesh Sinha. Make your point, sir.
Yeah. It's not a question of rejecting or accepting Hindi. It is hegemony of the English. And I raised the question that, which are known as vernacular intellectuals, but vernacular is a very contemptuous term. Indian languages intellectuals, suppression of the Indian languages intellectuals. It is a Kannada, it is a Malayali, it is a Bengali. That is my concern. That is the concern of the Prime Minister. The spirit of the Macaulayism is dominating. We are not against a particular language. We are against the spirit of that English education system. So the Indian knowledge system, when Indian knowledge system was suppressed, and Prime Minister quoted in the Ramnath Goenka lecture, it's a memorial lecture that when Mahatma Gandhi said in 1931 lecture in London that you have cut the beautiful tree. Therefore, my concern is that if we are not concerned about our own legacies, and I am surprised that Ruchika is saying that all liberalism and democratic spirit came after reading English. Then there was no democracy in Chola dynasty. There was no democracy in Lakshmi. We are the classical home of democracy. Before Mughal era, we are the classical home of democracy. Don't push Indians in the guilt mind that we have borrowed democracy from Athens or Europe.
Okay, I'm running out of time.
We are proud of our democracy. We are proud of our developmental agenda. We are proud of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
I want to bring you in because Ashutosh, whether we can debate it ad nauseum, but on ground, if you're just looking electorally, people seem to connect with what the Prime Minister says. Professor Sinha might say that it is Prime Minister Modi who re-Hinduized people, decolonized minds, but ground level, electorally, people are connecting to him, no?
Preeti, this is a myth. if the people of this country had been connecting with Mr. Narendra Modi in 2014, BJP wouldn't have got 31% vote share. In 2019, at the epitome of their success, 37% vote share. And in 2024, 36% vote
Fair
share.
point. Okay.
The Congress, whenever came into the power at its own, their vote share was always 42, 43, 44, 47, even 49% vote share. So there is no comparison between the BJP and the Congress on that front. Point number two, I just fail to understand. अरे भाई नॉर्थ इंडिया के अंदर आप हिंदी भाषा में इंस्ट्रक्शंस क्यों नहीं देना चाहते? क्यों अंग्रेजी के स्कूल चलाना चाहते हैं? क्यों? क्या प्रॉब्लम है आपको? व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम? भाई यही भारतीय जनता पार्टी थी जो बार बार हिंदी की बात करती, हिंदुस्तान की बात करती थी। आज वो कहती है ना अंग्रेजी को चला के रखिए। अरे भाई मेरे जैसा हिंदी का पत्रकार, उसको अंग्रेजी बोलने में दिक्कत आती है। मैं तो कहता हूं कि एक झटके में पूरे उत्तर भारत के अंदर आप हिंदी मीडियम आप इंस्ट्रक्शन करिए। यू नो व्हाई? बिकॉज ऑल द
सर आपको हमारी नौकरी से क्या दिक्कत है? हम अंग्रेजी पत्रकार हैं।
You know what is the hypocrisy? All the top leaders of the BJP, they do not send their kids to the Saraswati Shikha Mandir, जहां पे तथाकथित तरीके से हिंदू संस्कृति में पढ़ाया जाता है। वो अपने बच्चों को मॉडर्न स्कूल में भेजते हैं, पब्लिक स्कूल में भेजते हैं और फिर लंदन, हार्वर्ड, येल भेजते हैं। और यहाँ पे प्रधानमंत्री जी कहते हैं हम हार्वर्ड की बात नहीं करते, हम हार्ड वर्किंग की बात। सारे बच्चे आपका हार्वर्ड जाएंगे, येल जाएंगे, कोलंबिया जाएंगे, आपके सारे बच्चे पब्लिक इंग्लिश
ideological hypocrisy, that's what you're hinting at.
It's the greatest hypocrisy ever.
Okay.
या तो राकेश
Dushyant
सिन्हा जी
Sridhar,
कहते हैं
final
हिंदी
comments,
पढ़ाना
sir.
असंभव है।
Dushyant Sridhar.
Preeti, I think it should not take a lot of efforts and brains for one to understand that the Prime Minister is not opposing the English language as such. He's talking about the culture of sophistication that is associated with the language. And point number two, I do not know about the political ramifications. Yes, it does have a connect. When the Prime Minister in the front, he leads stating this, yes, I'm proud of a culture, I'm proud of that land that has given us the Ramayana and Mahabharata. I, as a person, a millennial, who is not attached to any party, I feel connect. As simple as that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Dr. Ruchika Sharma, go ahead, ma'am.
I just wanted to respond to Mr. Sinha making this a shocking statement on national TV that the Cholas were democracy. Sir, the Cholas went and destroyed cities and burnt cities with impunity. Their inscriptions say that women and children were destroyed in this carnage, and they were proud of this particular carnage. They went and destroyed temples upon temples built by the Jain rulers, Parmadiganga being one, in Pulikala Nagara. There is an inscription 1042 AD, you can go and check. They destroyed it with impunity because they were Shaiv, right? So please do not say that they were in any way a democracy. They were a monarchy. There is a difference between monarchy and democracy. Second point, and this is going to be my concluding point, this whole idea that somehow we have no problem with the English language, but we have problem with the English education system. Well, English education system is the one that actually offered education to everyone for the first time in Indian history, including women, including Shudras, including Ati-Shudras.
Professor Sinha, because you've said, you've made a comment there. Professor Sinha, you have 20 seconds to respond, sir. Then I'd like to quickly wrap up.
I'll also want 20 seconds.
Just what dynasty and rulers do, and what the political system is. Chola, there is a democracy in Chola dynasty. There is democracy in Lakshmi. You will deny the now democracy in Lakshmi. You will deny the democracy in Magadh. So I think there was a different context of their ruling, and that context should not be equated with the modern context. It should be read and it should be seen in that context. And last comment, that we should come out from the westernized mind, Ruchika. We are democratic. By giving a micro examples, you cannot prove that in India as a nation and civilization has been served by the Western education system.
20 seconds to Ashutosh, and please allow me to close this debate. Ashutosh,
and historical context.
Everyone wants to come in 10 seconds each. Go ahead.
I'm really aghast that today monarchy has become synonymous with the democracy, and democracy has become synonymous with monarchy. I'm really aghast. If this is the political understanding of Indian, all the different governance system, then I have nothing to say and nothing to add.
Okay, great. I'm glad because I'm running out of time. Dr. Ruchika Sharma, 10 seconds.
I just wanted to respond to Mr. Sinha making this comment that somehow this is a micro example. Shudra, Ati Shudra and women are the majority of this country if you take them together, right? And the census report that I quoted said that, out of these 9 crore, almost
Okay.
all of the women were uneducated.
Dushyanth
Before
Sridhar,
English
last 10
education
seconds.
system
Ma'am,
was
I
brought in.
have terribly run out of time. Yes, Dushyanth
Very
Sridhar.
quickly, Preeti, since there was a reference to Chola inscription, the Chola inscription of Uttiramerur near Kanchipuram does talk about democracy, the qualification that is required for elections. And with respect to monarchy and democracy, of course, after 1947, what have we been? A democracy. We have had many members of the same family governing the country. So I don't think that is democracy in any way.
But then electorally, they were elected.
You choose,
It's,
and
it's
then
an
you ask
election.
people
Okay,
to elect. You choose and you ask
okay,
people
I
to
have no
elect.
time. Okay, I have completely run out of time.
But Preeti,
This is a debate that can continue, I think for hours, and we're going to just let it rest just briefly for now.